Hi, I'm Sam here at Rick Jones Pianos with a absolutely magnificent piano. I can play this all day. It's a model Kawai GS-70 built in Hamamatsu, Japan in 1989. It was, in its day, Kawai's answer to Yamaha's own Model C7. The C series of Yamaha, that's the Conservatory series, Yamaha released them, started making them in 1967, specifically to appeal to professional pianists, especially classical pianists, for use in conservatories, hence the name. And it was intended as a substantial upgrade over their existing G series of grands, which were good. I myself grew up with one, I think highly of them, but lacked the tonal projection and dynamic range of the C series. Kawai went through a similar evolution, and in 1979 they released the GS series, which was itself an upgrade over their existing KG series. And that's how this piano came to be. It was a premium version 7.5 foot piano, meant to compete with Yamaha's own 7.5 foot piano, the C7. And it shows. These pianos, I'm always really happy when we get a GS series Kawai, and they're some of my favorite piano models. We don't often see them quite this large. They made smaller sizes like the GS-30 and 40, which were 6 feet long, and the 50 and 60, which were 6'7" or 8. But if you want a larger piano that can really fill a room with a big, deep sound, that's where this comes in. Now, it's a piano that, incidentally, we sold to a customer a very long time ago. They took very good care of the piano, and they even had a technician at one point, I think many years after they bought it, put a new set of Steinway hammers on it. The technician did an excellent job. When we got this piano back, they actually traded it in because they needed a smaller but more expensive piano for a smaller space. They got their 1990 whatever price, 100% in trade toward their next piano from us. And well, that's what you can do too, if you wish, for this piano, if you were to have it. Most people who trade these in are going to prefer keeping it, but for those who have to go to a smaller piano, you do have the opportunity to come back to us and upgrade to any piano of a higher price, so long as you've made sure it's in tune twice a year and in moderate stable humidity and really kept in good condition like this previous owner did. You would have the option to select another piano in our inventory, anything that's of a higher price than this piano. And that's what the previous owner did. They selected a piano of a higher price. But again, Kawais are workhorses, and with this piano reconditioned with new hammers and also key bushings, we just replaced the bushings my colleague Melvin did in the keys to make sure they were smooth. So long as you take good care of this piano, you can expect many more decades of musical enjoyment out of it. As I said, Kawais are workhorses. They're easy for us to service, and when we do service them, we get really good results. And this piano is just another wonderful example of that. So the trade-in is merely an option that you can take later on if you wish. You don't have to. What else can I say? It's well, about it musically, it has a mellower sound, which you may associate more with Kawai. That is perhaps one of Kawai's biggest distinctions from their competitor Yamaha, who is known for having more of a bolder, brighter, more brilliant sound, which is to the taste of some pianists, but not others. I think classical pianists in general have endeared themselves more to Kawai pianos for that reason, especially if they're playing music written by Beethoven and afterwards, so Romantic era, 1800s, the type of music that benefits from a warmer, mellower sound. I'm thinking Chopin, Liszt, Rachmaninoff, really complemented by the tone of this piano. Kawai pianos in general, and I think this one in particular, is just super smooth. No hint of harshness in the sound and of the tone whatsoever. It's just really refined and very subtle. Accordingly, I'll rate the tone a 4 on the scale from 1 to 10. When you play it loudly, it's not a harsh sound at all. It's just a big sound that can fill a room easily. But then when you play super softly, all the notes are there, and it's just super delicate, which is exactly what you would want out of a large piano. You get more responsiveness out of the action because internally the keys are longer. That gives you better leverage. The fulcrum of the key is farther away from your fingers, and that matters for professional pianists because you're going to be playing in, I don't know, F sharp major, and that's going to put your fingers right near the fallboard. You want the type of leverage in the key so that you don't have so much of a big difference between the front and the back of the key, at least in front of the fallboard, and that's why teachers ultimately want their advanced students playing on the grand piano. You get that better leverage, and the bigger the grand, the better it is. And this one is a beautiful example of that. So, since I mentioned the touch, super smooth, not especially heavy for a Kawai, but it's not easy either. It feels substantial. And I mentioned that because Kawai is known for having more of a firmer touch, but it's not always the case. Every piano turns out differently. This one I think is pretty much neutral, not too easy either, not too hard. It's just, it feels substantial, but when you need it to yield easily, playing really quickly or loudly or what have you, it feels like I'll say something I often say about early 20th century Steinways. It feels like the keys float under your fingers. The piano feels like it plays itself. It's just a really, really enjoyable piano to play. So for the tone then, it'll be a 4. For the touch, it'll be a 5, right in the middle. Very agreeable. And I already mentioned a 10-year warranty, all parts and labor, and 100% lifetime trade-in. Again, this is the type of piano you'll probably want to keep if you can. And we've done the work to this piano to make sure there is still many decades of life ahead of it. We've done a thorough regulation of the action to make it play evenly and smoothly. And, well, the great care that the previous owner took of this piano, they didn't abuse it. They enjoyed their piano and had it serviced as necessary, but they took good care of it. And that's the type of thing you can expect from a well-made piano, in my opinion, like a Kawai. When you take good care of it, it keeps on going. And this is the type of piano we would expect that you'll be able to enjoy for many decades, and we hope that you will. So please stop by, try this out for yourself. If you can't make it, you can always give us a phone call or send us an email, but we do hope to see you if you can. Thanks.